At the end of Dragon Ball GT, Goku did something wrong. Something so wrong that it would spiral the entire universe into an infinite loop of terror. But in order to explain this, we must first explain how Goku had the godlike abilities to create this infinite loop, and after this we will explain precisely how it would haunt the universe forever. It all begins in the GT TV special. It is known as A Hero's Legacy in the English release, and it is known originally in Japanese as Goku's side story, The Proof of Courage in the 4-Star Dragon Ball. In the TV special, Pan is shown raising Goku Jr. as his guardian, and after having health issues, she is admitted to a hospital where it appears that she is on her deathbed. Goku Jr. obviously wants to save his grandmother and is willing to go on a dangerous mission to make a wish to save her life. So during the adventure, Jr. is traveling with a friend named Puck. Puck gets into trouble and falls into a valley, leaving us to believe that he was dead. That would make sense, as Puck is a normal human and doesn't have any unique way that would suggest he could survive a fall like this. So how on earth did Puck manage to survive later on when Junior made his wish? Well, before we answer that, let's take a look at Pan. Mathematically, Pan was about 9 years old at the beginning of GT. Later on, there was a 1-year time skip that our heroes waited to use the Namekian Dragon Balls, which means that before the time skip, Pan was 10 years old, and after the time skip, she should be about 110. Now obviously Dragon Ball is fiction, but in real life, Super Centurions, or people who are over 110 years old, are extremely rare in nature. In fact, studies show that there are only a few thousand Super Centurions out of the billions of people that we have alive on the planet today. So the question is, how did Pan at 110 manage to survive being on her deathbed, but then miraculously appeared perfectly fine, in perfect health, perfectly timed a few moments after Junior met Goku? Well, it all comes down to our third reason. After a dangerous journey, Junior finds the 4-Star Dragon Ball and makes a wish. Now keep in mind that Junior didn't even know that he needed all 7 balls, and assumed that finding 1 ball would suffice. And after calling on the Dragon Ball and seeing that nothing happened, he begins to now cry and he begins to now pray. And as he's praying, he's saying, "Kami, why don't you come down and make my wish?" Now of course, you all know that the word Kami directly translates to God in Japanese, even though there are many other words that you can use for God. But specifically, what we must pay attention to is that Junior is essentially praying for God to essentially answer his question. And it is at this exact moment that Goku mysteriously appears and talks to Junior. Shortly after, Pan and Puck both arrive like nothing bad happened to them, and Goku now looks down on them from the clouds, smiling away like those classic Looney Tunes commercials where they say, "That's all, folks." Now what happened exactly? Well, for starters, the fact that Goku appears right after Junior directly called God's name is definitely fishy. Secondly, the fact that Pan and Puck immediately appeared out of nowhere when one of them should have been dead and the other was dying also seems too fishy. And isn't it also a little weird that Pan and Puck would also appear at the same exact time when they were both on polar opposite sides of the planet? Pan was in a hospital and Puck fell off a bridge, but yet they both appeared at the exact same time right after Goku disappeared. And when they arrived, neither of them seemed to notice that Goku and Junior were talking, as Goku just instantly vanished away. But our most important fact of all is the fact that Junior's wish was granted without summoning Shenron. Goku made an exception for his descendant by granting his wish for him without needing all 7 Dragon Balls, but made sure to explain to him what he would have to do to call on him or the power of the Dragon Balls the next time. Now some of you might be a bit skeptical of this video and say, well, if Pan had died or if Pan was in really bad health, that wouldn't make any sense for the Dragon Balls to help out, because the Dragon Balls can't help anybody who dies or is harmed by natural causes. And the simple answer to all of this is Goku. If Goku has the power of the Dragon Balls or serves as a messenger to the Dragon Ball's power, then he can clearly make exceptions, as we saw earlier. And in this case, Goku granted 2 wishes without all 7 Dragon Balls even being present, so he can clearly mend the rules to help out Pan, especially since she's his granddaughter. And for those of you who will argue that Pan and Puck could simply remember everything before they died, keep in mind that the Dragon Balls are capable of erasing memories, just like in the Buu Saga where a wish was made so that humanity would forget about Majin Buu. But most importantly, ask yourselves this extremely important question. If Puck somehow survived that insane fall, is it possible that he would be in perfect physical health, with no broken limbs, no battered face, and not even a scratch? Perfect health. Now of course you could always make a compelling argument that Puck was able to activate an invincibility cheat code and he was able to survive the disastrous fall without taking any damage, or he was able to magically pull out a parachute in thin air like a Grand Theft Auto character. But until you have evidence of that, it makes more sense that Goku revived him back to life. But all good things must come to an end, as we discuss the huge problem that this ultimately creates. Because Goku and Vegeta have direct descendants on Earth, this is great for the planet as it shows that there are fighters that are capable of facing future threats. But the problem is that Goku telling Junior about the Dragon Balls creates an unfortunate cycle of evil that will now occur. It all began with Bulma. She created the Dragon Radar and sought out to find these balls for her own selfish purposes. In contrast, the Red Ribbon Army also created their own Dragon Radar, and they too hunted these balls down for their own evil reasons. And over time, the ending of GT has showed us that our Dragon Ball characters are essentially living in a loop. Peace only exists for many years until the Dragon Balls return to the Earth, and when they do, the evil Dragon Ball hunt returns, which will cause the negative energy to spread, and the Dragon Balls have to be taken away again. You can view this in a spiritual sense where the Dragon Balls are similar to the fruit in the Garden of Eden. Because of mankind's free will and selfishness, they used the Dragon Balls, which ultimately led to evil and corruption which spread throughout the universe. This is just like Adam and Eve disobeying God and using their free will to eat the fruit which ultimately caused corruptions to spread throughout the heavens. So with Goku's return, he essentially restarted the cycle that plagued the Dragon Ball universe in the first place. A cycle that Junior and Vegeta Jr. will now have to face as they get older, and when they get old and die, their great-grandchildren will now have to face the same problems that they once did. But don't worry, there is definitely hope in this scenario. Not only are Goku and Vegeta's descendants powerful, but they are capable of turning into Super Saiyans at an extremely young age. And when we factor in technology, as shown at the end of Dragon Ball GT, Bulma's descendant is living proof that the Capsule Corporation still exists and is still the most dominant technology company 100 years later. This ultimately shows us that the exponential growth of technology in the Dragon Ball world will greatly enhance the combat abilities of Goku and Vegeta's descendants. Just look at the many devices that helped Vegeta train when he was on planet Earth. And when you combine this with the century of understanding Saiyan anatomy much better, the descendants of Goku and Vegeta will now live in a world that could expand their fighting abilities much easier than their ancestors, even if their Saiyan blood is diluted. We often forget that there are many Saiyan descendants that were born throughout the 100-year time skip. To be specific, Pan is not Junior's grandmother, she is his great-great-grandmother, and this all makes perfect sense because it's impossible for Pan to be Junior's grandmother with their massive age gap. And between Pan and Junior, there are many generations of relatives born in between them. For instance, in order for Pan to be Junior's great-great-grandmother, that means that Junior's grandparent is Pan's grandchild. And when you consider brothers and sisters and cousins and uncles and aunts, there are a lot more Saiyan descendants than GT led us to believe. And with every descendant comes someone who is capable of turning into a Super Saiyan. So unless an incredibly powerful villain arrived, Earth is in good hands. But let's not forget the important fact that other than Goku and Vegeta's Saiyan descendants, normal humans themselves can train to become superpowered humans, and because of this, we could have characters like Krillin, Master Roshi, and Tien living throughout the Dragon Ball world that would be capable of fighting off against future threats. And Dragon Ball Online actually played with this idea because in it, Gohan actually wrote a book about ki control, and that spread throughout the entire world so that other people can train themselves how to use advanced fighting techniques. But unfortunately, that also means that people could learn these techniques to do bad things. So it's a gift and also a curse. And if you enjoyed this GT video, check out GT's 100-year mystery video to see the things that could have happened in the 100-year time skip, or the Dragon Ball GT fight that fans deserved. And if you want a classic theory video, check out Was Goku Dead at the End of GT. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.